Hey everybody, good afternoon. Thanks, Frank. Thank you all for being here today for our breakout session. Before we get started, I want to do a quick little test here. If you can hear me and see me from where you're standing, or from where you're sitting rather today, let's give me a show of hands. If you can hear me, if you can see me, show of hands, good. Probably wondering why I asked that question. I have a really cool role here at Zoom that allows me the privilege to train people on how to use Zoom every single day. Zoom meetings, webinars and events, conference rooms, and why we're here today, Zoom administration. So before we get started, I want to talk a little bit about deployment first. When it comes to deployment, if you're not using SSO, you should be. How many of you today currently utilize an SSO for any of your business applications? Raise your hand. Awesome. SSO is by far the most secure way to deploy Zoom across your end users. It's secure, as SSO should be. It's also efficient. We use just-in-time provisioning, so if you don't have to actually create accounts in advance. Your users, if they don't have an account, they can use their existing SSO credentials and an account is created for them. This also means that it's easy for them. And that's what's important to us as admins. Make the process as easy as possible for your users, and that's what drives adoption. So they don't have to memorize or create a new login. They can simply use their existing SSO credentials, and they have an account for them. Now, to get started with SSO, we already integrate with several of the leading providers, leading identity providers in the industry today. And one of the first things that you'll do when you integrate SSO with Zoom is apply for a vanity URL. And that word vanity means that it's going to be very personal to you and your business. And so that'll lead us into leveraging the power of branding. So you've enabled SSO, and when individuals go to log into their user accounts, they're going to go to your vanity URL, which would be something like your company or your school or your nonprofit.zoom.us. Now, when you initially set up your vanity URL, it's going to look something like this. Pretty snazzy landing page, if I do say so myself. But you might want something a little bit more personal to you and your brand. And so with SSO, we also have the power of branding that we put in your hands with fully customizable HTML that you can use to brand the landing page that coincides more with the look and feel of your brand. And you can style your CSS, so you can make the landing page a little bit more welcoming. You're also able to make this maybe more internal-facing, like MSU's page. They've done a really good job, by the way. If you take a look at that page, there's a lot of information there. Compared to the previous examples we've seen, you can also make this page, the landing page for your users, really personal. Now, MSU's done a really good job here at using this page to educate their end users. So for those of you that are in IT that deploy applications or new software, most of the time you probably get hit with a lot of questions initially as to what this new service is, what this new application does, how do I use it, how do I get started. They've used the actual branding page to answer a lot of those questions up front, which makes things a lot easier for you, and it also makes them happier, more at ease. You can also kind of show off a little bit of your culture and humor here as well. One of my favorite actual landing pages. But you can customize pretty much everything once you integrate SSO. Custom email templates to images, watermarks, and other images that you can use across Zoom conference rooms and your meetings. So those two things, SSO and leverage branding. Now that'll be a little bit different for everyone, how you integrate SSO, how you brand. And we are always here to help. We're going to talk about some of the help resources that you have available to you. Now, at this point, I want to go ahead and talk about the customized usability. So making things easy on your users is really important to us as admins. And one of the things that you should be doing, if you're not already doing so today, is customizing your user settings. So I'm going to go to my admin portal here. Now, when you log in as an admin, what you want to do first is go into your account settings. You want to customize exactly the way that you want your end users to utilize the software. And so from here in the admins or the account settings, you can set up the meeting defaults for scheduling meetings. So if there's specific settings of meetings that you want your end users to always have enabled by default, you can set these up here. Another reason why this is really important is because a lot of times your users just want to jump in. They just want to start using the product. They may not actually dive into the user settings. They just want it to work. You can make it work for them. You can set up the default schedule settings. You can also go to in-meeting. We have 2 sets of settings, basic and advanced, and these are all the functionalities and features that your users can have in Zoom meetings. So if there are certain features you want to make sure are enabled and available for your users, enable it here. Like, for example, file transfer. Your end users may not know that they can transfer files in a Zoom meeting through in-meeting chat. Unlimited files per meeting, 512 megabytes per file. It's pretty cool for us to use to be able to transfer files in a meeting. If there's any particular features that you want to make sure stay enabled, lock them to the on position, and your end users won't be able to change this. Or if there's a particular setting you want to be disabled at any time, you can always disable something, click the lock icon, and this will allow you to lock that setting down. And that means that your end users will not be able to change or enable that particular feature. If you go down to in-meeting advanced, there's even more functionality here. So as the admin, if you haven't really dug into these particular settings, you should be doing so. There's also email notifications that are really useful for your end users, knowing when somebody joins a meeting before them. And for you as the admin, you can also keep an eye on licensing. You can decide what threshold you want Zoom to let you know when you're running low on licensing, and who gets those emails. And if you were able to catch the 1 p.m. Always Room for Zoom Rooms breakout session, you might have seen these settings talked about as well, being able to adjust settings for your Zoom rooms at the account level. Now, at the very, very top, you also might have noticed that there's settings for recording. Cloud recording is one of my favorite features at Zoom, because with cloud recording, if you have our business license, we also have automatic audio transcripts side by side to the recordings. And if you want your end users to also be able to record those meetings, you can set exactly what versions of the meeting you are recording. So we can record the meeting from gallery view, speaker view, or record separate versions of all 3. This also gives you the option to prevent your end users from deleting their recordings. So if there's any reason for you to want to review those recordings for quality purposes or training purposes, you can prevent them from deleting a potentially embarrassing recording here. You can also set up auto deletion rules. So cloud recording, if you're running out of space, or if you want to keep recordings a little bit more current, here on the training team, we host webinars every single day. We record each and every one of those. So we'd like to keep those current, and we'll set up an auto deletion rule for deleting at 90 days. And for those of you that are heavy telephone users, you can also select which numbers are actually available to your end users, especially when we're offering toll-free. If you're part of if you are subscribed to our expanded audio, you might want to make sure that specific numbers maybe shouldn't be used. So you can click the little pencil icon here and decide which numbers you want your end users to be able to utilize. Now from here, under account settings, this is a way for us to template the basic defaults for our end users when they actually jump in and start using Zoom. But there might be a specific use case where you want to enable a specific setting for a particular user, but you don't want to disable it for the entire account, or vice versa. So I can't disable a setting that I want all of my users. I can't disable a setting that I want some users to use, and I can't enable a setting that I only want a few users to use. So how do we resolve things like that? Group management is a way to do this. If you go to group management, and I've created a couple of groups for an example today. Let's say for whatever reason there is a group of individuals that we don't want them to record their meetings for whatever reason that might be. But I can't disable it on the account level because they can just re-enable it, and I can't disable it and lock it down because then that would mean that nobody in the account gets to use it. So what I'll do is I'll go to group settings, I'll add a group here at the top, and you can name the groups whatever you want. I like to name the groups after kind of what the purpose is. So no recording allowed. Now, once we create the group, I've added a couple of our users here from our user management tab. You can go to the settings. Now you can get really granular here. You can set up specific settings for each of these individual groups, from meeting settings in meeting basic and advanced, as well as recording settings. So if I wanted to disable recording for this particular group, disable the recording. I'm going to turn that off. Disable. Turn that off. And then if I don't want them to be able to turn it back on, I'm going to lock that setting. So now, any individual users that I do not want to be able to record their meetings, what I can do is put them in this group, and now they can't record. So as simple as these examples can be, and I made another one for PSTN as well, keep in mind you can group your user settings from meeting settings, recording settings, and audio settings. So you can get really custom here. This one for PSTN, perhaps we want to adjust the specific numbers that are available to this group of users, or maybe we disabled all of the international toll-free numbers for our entire organization, and maybe we just want to enable it for this specific group. We can do that through here as well. And as an admin, if there's any particular setting that you need to help your users with, or let's say your execs or CEO come up to you and says, I need a meeting. Can you schedule a meeting for me? Well, as an admin, you go into your user portal, click on anybody's name here, click on their email address. You can see their profile page. You can make edits to their profile page. For example, here, changed at Zoomtopia. Save those changes. You can manage all of their meeting, recording, and audio settings from here. And you're also able to manage their events, whether they have webinars, meetings, or personal audio conference. You can even schedule an event on behalf of that user. And depending on the default settings that you set on your account level for scheduling meetings, those settings are already enabled by default for this meeting invitation. So again, you can take a lot of the work out of the end user's hands before they even get their hands on Zoom. And before we move on from this particular settings changes, also keep in mind that maybe you don't want every admin to have full access to every user. For those of you that already support Zoom, any Zoom issues that come up, or if you have your own internal IT department that handles all issues for any software, raise your hand. OK, cool. Now, when it comes to helping your users out, you may not want everybody to have full access. So what we can do is also use role management. This is essentially role-based admin controls. And so let's say, for example, I want to create a role for reporting, specific set of people that I want to pull reports for any of our meetings. But if you notice here, I'm not actually granting them access to change anything else on the account. So if there's specific features, settings, or account access that I don't want my other admins to have, maybe we have a really large IT department with multiple tiers, I can also set up the access controls here so that those that are part of Zoom administration at our organization can't actually access or change other settings that they shouldn't be allowed to touch anyways. So this is another really great way not only to manage our end user settings, but also to manage our other admins at our organization. Now, attention to details. Typically, if you're the one that deployed a software, if there's a question as to something that goes wrong, you are usually the first person they ask. Now, let's say that your CEO, CTO, or another user tells you it didn't work. Like, what didn't work? Well, the Zoom meeting didn't work. Or perhaps a user doesn't really know how to explain that it didn't actually work the way they wanted it to. So let's take an example. Let's say we have somebody that messages us, and they say, my meeting didn't work right. I don't know what's going on. OK, no problem. We can help you. Let's find the date and time of the particular meeting. What we'll do from here, we'll go to our admin portal. We'll scroll down, and you'll see the dashboard right up there, right in the bottom left. Now, the dashboard is a really awesome tool. It gives you access to view the individual connections to any Zoom meeting. It also shows you some really great high-level details. And if you notice there, Frank is at the top of the list with top user for the meeting minutes for that week. Now, we can go back as far as 6 months at a time, but we can look at some really high-level data here. How many meetings are in progress, how many meeting minutes we've used in that week. But we're here to troubleshoot. So somebody told us the meeting didn't work as well as it should have. We'll go into the Meetings tab. We'll go to Past Meetings, and I see that there's Foggy's meeting there. So we'll go ahead and click on that meeting, and we can take a look at his individual connection. Where is he connecting from? What are his mic and speaker devices like? What kind of Wi-Fi or what kind of connection did he have to the meeting? And then we can dig in even deeper. Audio settings, audio connectivity, both sending and receiving, video, as well as screen sharing. All of this looks good so far. I'm wondering what the problem might have been. CPU usage. And I think we see the problem. See 85% max CPU utilization. So this is just one example. But using the dashboard, if you don't know really where to start troubleshooting, this gives us a way to kind of validate where we might start, what might have been the issue. And so for this particular user, I might say, how many tabs do you have open in your browser? Or how many applications do you have open at the time? Maybe we can figure that out. But that's just one example. And you can do this for any meeting in the past and as well as live meetings. So let's take a look at the live meetings. If I go back to my browser here, there's actually a meeting already in progress. So I'll go back down to our dashboard. And so let's say that there's a meeting in progress. Go to the Meetings tab. There's the live meeting in progress. We can join as an assistant. So as the admin, from the dashboard, go to a live meeting in progress, click Join as an assistant, and Zoom joins automatically to that meeting. You enter the meeting. Let me bring over this meeting over here. There we go. Almost had it. I am joined to the meeting. I need to minimize this a little bit. There we go. And so I joined the meeting in progress. And so you join as an admin. You join with your microphone and your camera per your own settings. But you can go in there and say hi, see what's going on in the meeting session. You see your attendees here, and you can troubleshoot with them live. So you can do this for any of your meetings that are in progress. And when you're done, you can leave the meeting, and it won't end the meeting for that particular user. It'll just allow you to exit. So let's take a look at what's going on, and then you can move on from there. So that's a really cool feature that you can use from the dashboard. And from the dashboard, you can also see the real-time updates. Every 60 seconds, you'll also see data presented to you. And this updates automatically for you every 60 seconds. When it comes to supporting your users, there's a lot of tools available. Now, many of you, as I saw in the crowd, have your own IT departments. You support all of the Zoom support issues that might come into your organization. And whether you have your own IT department or not, we are always here to help. And there's a lot of really great resources that we have. We have the Zoom Help Center. Our Help Center is a really great resource. You can search and browse all of our support articles by keyword. We have it browsable by popular topics. You can view all of our support tutorial videos here. And it's also the place where you can contact us in case something stumps you, some issue has you stumped. And we can also subscribe to release notes. So if you want to be up to date with every single release that comes out from Zoom, I would highly suggest subscribing to release notes. So if I'm going to go to my browser here, give me just a moment, pull up my browser. There we go. I'm going to go to the support page, our Help Center. So let's go to the very beginning. Again, searchable by keyword. I'm going to type in release notes. I'm going to go to the main page here. Now, you can follow this page outright. Any update that we're going to push to any platform on Zoom, we push release notes ahead of time. So once you follow this page, any updates you're going to get automatically sent to you your email. So you can be logged into your web portal, go to the support site, and you can start following from here. Or maybe you just want to follow specific platforms, Mac, Windows, iOS, Android. Go to that specific platform page, follow, don't define. Follow that, and now you can follow the updates. So definitely something that I think everybody should take advantage of. And then the Zoom status page. If there's any interruptions in service, if there's any outages, we want you to hear it from us first. So we're very transparent. If you go to the status page, status.zoom.us, we have a listing of all of, day by day, anything that might have occurred. Smooth sailing over the past month or so. Let's take a look at the status page today. Go to status.zoom.us. All systems operational. You can see all the different services that we have available. You can also view the history, and you can go back to see all the history. And if we have any maintenance, we'll tell you about the maintenance and whether or not it'll affect any services. Again, if anything happens, we want you to hear it from us first. And lastly, as a shameless self-promotion, as part of the user enablement team, as I mentioned, my role here at Zoom allows me to train people how to use Zoom every single day. And so if you don't have the time to train your users, if your users have a really busy schedule, they can't attend an all-hands meeting or that training at the time that you want to host it, you can always send them to zoom.us/live training. Well, we have training sessions every day and every week. Zoom meetings, Zoom webinars, and conference rooms. And we also have, of course, an administration training as well. OK. Now, scheduling. How many of you, raise your hands, if you rely on calendars to set events? That's a pretty easy one. If you rely on calendars to set your events, raise your hand. How many of you use Outlook or Google? Hands up. OK. How many of you are aware of the plugins that we have for Microsoft Outlook and Google? Excellent. So plugin functionality is really great. It allows us to integrate different functionalities into our browsers or other functionalities from other services into a different application. And so with Zoom, we have 2 plugins that are available at the moment for Outlook for both Mac and Windows, as well as the Google Calendar. And those are browser extensions for Chrome and Firefox. Really great extensions. They allow us to schedule our Zoom meetings directly from those calendars. But as an admin, that also means that it's another piece of software that you have to manage and deploy. It also means that there's an extra step for your end user. You want them to have calendar integration. They're going to have to go download the plugin. It's really easy to install. But again, you're asking your users to do one more thing for a brand new application or a brand new service. And so we're excited to be able to announce today that we're going to be updating that workflow. And you can ditch the plugin as an admin. Now, don't panic. We're not abandoning the plugin by any means. What we're doing, though, is updating the workflow for this particular integration for both Google and Microsoft. And this will allow you, the new workflow will allow you to easily install, deploy, and manage this plugin. And it also makes it much easier for your end users. It's just going to work for them. No extra steps, no extra plugins, no extra downloads. It's just going to work for them from the moment they open up their calendar. Now, to help me out with this workflow, I am pleased to be joined on stage by our product manager of core integrations, Abhishek Balaji. And he's going to walk us through the new and updated workflow for Outlook and for Google Calendar. Abhishek?
Hey.
Thanks, man.
Thank you, Matt.
Right, no problem.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Zoomtopia. My name is Abhishek Balaji, and I'm a product manager here at Zoom for our core integrations. So as Matt mentioned, today we want to talk to you a little bit about a new and simpler way to manage your calendar integrations. So think back. Today, we have our Outlook plugins, we have our Chrome extensions. We want to make that better for you. We want to make that better for you as an admin. We want to make that better for your end users and really watch you help them. With Microsoft add-ins, what we have built is based on the new web-based technologies. So Microsoft add-ins allows you as an admin to go to your familiar Office 365 admin portal and easily install, centrally deploy, and conveniently manage your calendar integrations. So think about this. Couple of clicks, you push this out to your users, and boom, they have it. And for your users, this means an enhanced user experience. So let's do a little demo. Let's walk through how this can be done. So this is the familiar Outlook interface. And let's say we wanted to create a meeting today, a Zoom meeting, in recognition of this event. So we can create this meeting, and let's call it Celebrate Zoomtopia with Admins. Now, the timing looks good. Yeah, let's do 3:30 to 4. And typically, at this point, if we wanted to add a Zoom meeting, let's go right into the More Details page. Now, at this page, notice that you have your add-in right up here over here. It's native to the Outlook interface, and it's easily attainable for your users. So with that click, your users now have all the settings that they're familiar with, regardless of whether previously you're using the Outlook plugin, the web, or the Zoom desktop to schedule. These are the same settings. And with one click, you can now add this Zoom meeting to your calendar invite. It's nicely parsed as an invitation over here. But let's say we wanted to actually add a setting. We wanted to add a password, right? We could now do this with just one click. We can add a password here of Zoomtopia and press Update Meeting. And voila, it's done. It's very simple. It just works. Now, here your users can add another guest or add a Zoom room or change the frequency or do whatever else they want to complete this event. And once that's done, they can go out and push save. And there we have our event that we've just created. But remember, this was all possible because you, as admins, went to your familiar Office 365 admin portal and allowed for an easy installation and centralized deployment. You clicked a couple of things, you made it available to the user. Users don't have to worry about plugins. Users don't have to worry about installing something, updating something. It just happened to be there, and they were able to use it. Let's try to go back to our slide. Is it? Yeah.
Click forward.
There we go. So this is the admin portal that you see, the Office 365 admin portal. And today, we have the Microsoft add-in available for you to download. You can go to the app source, and you can install this. This is available for Outlook on the web, Outlook 2013 and above for the PC desktop version, and Outlook 2016 and above for the Mac desktop version. Now, for all of my G Suite admins in the room, don't worry, we haven't forgotten about you. We're actually working on a comparable experience for the Google side of the house, and the Google add-ons will allow you as G Suite admins to go to the G Suite marketplace and easily install the calendar integration, and then push that out just in the same way that you would have done with your Microsoft app admin portal. And from your G Suite admin portal, you can now manage all these settings. This is going to be available starting this year. It's going to come out before the end of the year, so please keep an eye out for it. And with that, I would like to pass it back to Matt, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Abhishek. And I'm going to pass it right back over to Frank.
Outstanding. Let's give it up for these guys doing deep dive into the admin portal. Thank you, Abhishek. Thank you, Matt.
Thanks.
Okay, so they're going to be on stage here, and next up is our Q&A. I have my official Zoomtopia Q&A running shoes on.
Let's see.
So if you could, I'm going to come out into the audience. If you have a question, raise your hand. If you're in the middle, I'll reach in. Hopefully we can get that mic to you, but we should be able to get as much questions in as possible. So let me come right here. Charles?
I have a question regarding the admin access in the dashboard when you pull up a meeting and you want to join it as an observer. Is there a way to give that access to someone without giving them the rest of the access?
Yes, so let's go to our admin portal. There we go. All right, cool. So let me go ahead and go to our admin portal. All right, so we're going to go to the dashboard. And I'm going to go ahead, I'm sorry, not the dashboard. I'm going to go ahead and look up this way, because it's a little small in there. So yeah, let's go to our role management. Now let's say this admin here. And we're going to go down. Let me go ahead and just find the dashboard. There it is. So here, you can give them just access to this dashboard, nothing else. And that includes the dashboard, usage reports, user activity reports, and things like that. So yeah, thanks for that question. But yeah, absolutely. You can get really specific with those settings.
Okay, so my question is, can you have a user in two different groups, or is it only isolated to one? And then I have a second question, but it's different.
Okay.
And that is just, do you guys have direction specifically around this new admin push out for the Microsoft side?
All right. I'll answer the first question. Abhishek, you can answer the second one.
Sure.
So yes, you can have people in two different groups, but you have to be careful with how you set that up. So let's take, for example, let's put you in a group. You have dashboard access. In a different group, you don't have dashboard access. Zoom will defer to the more liberal of those permissions. So yeah, you can definitely do that. You can add people in different groups, also different role-based admin controls as well. But again, it'll always defer to what you've given them the most access to. And then for the second question.
Yeah. So the question was any directions regarding for admins for pushing out the add-ins or the Google add-ons. So there are a couple of things. One, on our support page, there is an article on how you can push this out, how you can install the add-in, and then this will be coming out for the Google add-on as well in the future. And then you can also email us or work with your support team and that if for any specific questions. Thank you.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
My name's Sammy. So I'm responsible for the training of our Zoom users as well. And so I do admin training also. And I was just wondering, obviously because there's so many settings on the account settings and so on and so forth, and you're not going to go over every single one. And so I was wondering if there's any specific ones that you reference or tell users to have a specific look at when you are doing your admin training. Any like hot settings that people...
Specifically for admins?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So let's take a look at the, let's go back to my browser. There we go. Now, if I was looking at admin settings, let's go to account settings. At the base account level, I would say definitely set the way you want them to schedule their meetings. A lot of times end users just want things to work. They're just going to dive in, and if there's not a setting that's enabled, they may not enable it themselves. So if you are already familiar with Zoom meetings and there's specific settings for scheduling meetings, I would say telephone and computer audio should be on by default. This maximizes the audio options that individuals have to join audio to a Zoom meeting. I would also say, depending on the actual meeting itself, maybe join before host turned on. This prevents users from waiting for a meeting to start. If somebody's running late, which happens on a regular basis, people can run late to meetings. It's best to have them start on time. If we want to go into in-meeting basic, I would definitely think that unless there's any other reason to not, I would say chat, private chat are good things to have enabled. Private chat's really great for in-meetings if you want to have a chat one-on-one with somebody else in a meeting. Again, users may not know to enable something like that. File transfer and co-host. Co-host is a big one. Co-host allows you to have a co-host on a meeting. That can be really important. Or if you are an admin, for example, you want to join a meeting, hey, will you make me a co-host? It'd be a shame if a user's like, oh, I don't have that feature enabled. So you can make sure things like that are enabled. Now, most of the in-meeting basic settings are pretty good. Co-host, using in-meeting polling, remote controls. With in-meeting advanced, I would say maybe group HD video. But when you get into the advanced features, this is really dependent on how you want them to really use the platform. Now, most of the in-meeting basic settings, these are going to be settings that are pretty expected for any web collaboration platform. In the advanced, that's when you get to really determine how advanced they get. I would say out of the advanced, I'd recommend breakout rooms. Breakout rooms are a great feature. If you're not familiar with breakout rooms, by the way, it's a really cool feature to allow you to split your meetings into smaller separate meeting groups, which is great for technical trainings, any sort of education, classrooms, and things like that. So, yeah. And you're right, there is a ton here.
It's a lot.
Frank? Yep.
We have Office applications loaded on our Mac, and we recently upgraded to Mojave. And when we did that, we lost our Outlook plugins.
Ah.
Sure. Yeah, so this is an issue we're aware of, so thank you for pointing that out. We are working actively on this to try and resolve this as quickly as we can. Yeah. And I can talk to you after this if you have any specific questions. Yeah.
Hi. We use single sign-on, and it works great. But from time to time, we still have users trying to create an account with their work email address. Is it possible to have those, like get a pop-up, hey, you don't need to do that, you can just click single sign-on?
You can also, yeah, thanks for that question. So that can happen. I would suggest manage domain. So you can go into your account settings, account profile, excuse me. There we go. So under your account profile, you can also apply for managed domain. So your company, whatever email address that your end users are going to use, if you type in, let's say, your company, yourcompany.com, you add this, we'll verify that domain that you own it. So in case anybody does decide to sign up for a free account using their work email address, they're automatically added into user management. And then from there, you can integrate them into your account. So that's a good way to capture any of those other rogue accounts that might get created on their own. Where did Frank go? There you are.
Hi. We use the join the room as an assistant occasionally when people are having problems. But when they have the waiting room enabled, we can't come in automatically. They have to invite us in or allow
Yes.
us. Is there a way to override that?
At the moment, there's not. That's a great point to bring up, by the way. So the waiting room is, oh, sorry. I thought you were going to say something, Abhishek. So the waiting room is a really cool feature. I'm going to bring this up on our support site so I can show you a little picture of this for those of you that maybe not be familiar with this. The waiting room is a really cool feature that allows you, or allows the end user, to choose when to admit somebody into the meeting. So when somebody joins the meeting, Zoom lets you know that there's somebody waiting, and you can admit them into the meeting. Now, this is a really great feature, by the way, for any back-to-back meetings you might be having. It prevents people from joining a little bit early and crashing your meeting. If you're using the personal meeting ID, it also prevents individuals from perhaps joining that from a past meeting, or if they just know the meeting ID, they want to meet with you again, they might crash a meeting. Now, that question, very good. It won't override, so if you join as an assistant, your end user does have to admit you. For that, if you don't want that to happen, you can always disable that feature in the account settings. But at the moment, yes, there's not a way around that at the moment. Thanks for the question.
I have a question in regards to the, I guess, best practices for scheduling meetings, and two questions. In regards to the Azure 365 plugin, if you have an admin who has delegate access to another user's account, can they use that tool, or do they have to use the Outlook plugin? Second question is, if you are centralizing scheduling around an individual who's scheduling meetings for the high-level staff who aren't going to schedule their own meetings, if you schedule one meeting for a high-level staff person and you schedule another meeting for another high-level staff, that person has scheduled 2 meetings, and they can't schedule 2 meetings, so now there's a conflict. What's the best practice for admin scheduling meetings for other staff members?
Great question. Executive admins are really important to us. They have really busy schedules. You touched on something, the delegate access. So to have delegate access to a calendar is one thing. Now that works with our integration with Google and Google Outlook calendars. There is an extra step that you'll take. It'll be scheduling privilege. And so for the particular executive, and again, as an admin, we can do this for them. Go into user management, for example, the executive, and let's say that go into this individual's account. This might be the executive. We'll go down to their meeting settings. We'll go down to Other, and we'll assign scheduling privilege to, for example, that executive admin. So we'll say EA admin at company.com. So we'll add that individual's email and assign them. Now we can also go and verify that that privilege has been transferred to that admin by going back to our user management tab, finding that particular user, and then going down to the bottom of their meeting settings to verify that they have scheduling privilege on behalf of that executive. So we'll go back down to Other here. So if they have that privilege, it'll say that privilege at the bottom. Once they have scheduling privilege on Zoom, that also transfers to the Outlook and Google Calendar integrations. So when they're using the different calendars, they can set up 2 separate meetings that might happen at the exact same time for 2 separate admins, and they can schedule on behalf of both of them.
And just to add to that, also, we are trying to explore the add-ins and the Google add-ons to try to see if we can make this flow easier. So watch out for more.
I have a question about the add-ons.
Sure.
They do a great job of adding Zoom to a meeting. Is there a feature for removing Zoom from a meeting that you had already added?
Yeah, so this is actually something that we've heard a lot about, and we are working on this. Thank you.
Way over there in the back corner, Frank, I think.
Back corner here. Is it your hands up? Yes. Okay. So a clarifying question about groups and group settings.
if I add people to a group and add specific settings, do I have to manage every setting for that group, or if I change only certain settings that might be at the account settings level, it only changes those settings for that group?
Good question. If you lock a setting to a particular status, on or off, that will influence the group settings. Otherwise, so let's say that if we wanted to manage, for example, PSTN or toll-free access, if I were to change anything about telephone settings for this particular group, these settings are going to apply to this particular group. I can go back to the account level and make other changes that will apply to anybody else in the organization that are not part of this group specifically. Did that answer your question? Go ahead. I can hear you from here. Good question. So the question was, if I were to set the account settings at the account level, do they flow into the groups? No. You would have to manage those individually. And yeah, so that would be an individual group management. Thanks. In terms of group management, no inheritance. And again, as I mentioned, no inheritance unless you lock a particular feature to an on or off position.
Hey guys, thanks a lot for all the stuff you're doing today. For a customer who's about to move off of another video software onto Zoom, what are the top 3 gotchas from, hey, I need to think about this right now so I don't totally destroy my end users, and the fear that I have as an IT director of converting over? What are the top 3 things you guys see I need to consider?
That is a great question. Way to put me on the spot. I think it depends on your organization, how you want to use the platform. I would definitely say give them a grace period to move over to Zoom. Change is really hard for a lot of people. They don't want to really move from what they're comfortable with. I would say definitely build a grace period. Allow them to get accustomed to the platform, and make information readily available to them. Now, we could get really deep on going to specific user settings or adoption tactics. There's actually some great breakout sessions this week on adoption tactics and strategies to drive user adoption. I would say definitely, though, give them that grace period to move over to this new platform and make information readily available to them. Let them know where they can find help on Zoom. Zoom resources like the Help Center, or if you're going to manage that for them, give them guides like getting started. Let's go up to the browser really quick. Like I said, our Help Center is really great as a self-serve resource, but specific things like this, like 1-minute video introductions, are great. If you want to get people up and running quickly, let them know, here's how you share your screen, here's how you schedule a meeting using the website or using the integrations with Google or Outlook. These are really great sub 1-minute videos that get them started quickly. So if they just want to, I need to start a meeting, I need to record a meeting or something like that, these are great. Getting Started here has a lot of really great guides based on some of our top questions. This can be useful for you, so you kind of know what to expect in terms of those initial questions. And then I would also say that, as I mentioned, depending on, we had one individual over here that runs their own training for their organization. If they want training, we have a daily Getting Started session that's 30 minutes. We run it Monday through Friday. And it's a great way to introduce them to what Zoom is. We take them through the web portal. So we take them through their actual profile. We take them through scheduling a meeting and how to start that meeting and the general controls. And all of this happens in under 30 minutes. And if they can't make any of those sessions, keep in mind that at the bottom of our support site, if you go to tutorials and training, you'll also be able to watch previously recorded training sessions. So on their own time, they always have these training resources available to them. And anytime they join one of our public training sessions, they will always receive a recording of that. And if you wanted to join as well, we'll give you that recording, and you can also share that internally with your organization. So there's a lot of resources that we have here already that can help you kind of push that information out.
And just to add one more thing to that, which is also, there are a lot of integrations that we have built with other providers. So we want to make sure that the transition phase is easy. So please do check out that as well.
How about one more right here, Matt?
Sure, yeah.
Hey, quickie, for licensing, the executive admin example you gave, do they need a pro license?
They will.
And then the second one is for dashboard admins, do they need a pro license?
No. But the dashboard is a business license feature. So the account level as a whole would need to be on our business plan. But the admins themselves do not need a pro license. They can have a free license.
Oh, outstanding question.
That's it?
Guys.
Yeah, that was a good
Hey,
question.
How about one more time for these guys here? For
Thank
Matt
you,
and
guys.
Abhishek.